What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of According to the Content. Hope you guys are continuing to still like the video so far. And with that being said, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Okay, in this video, I'm going to give a quick recap of some of the key highlights that stuck out to me in regards to week 2 of the Diddy trial. I just want to highlight a couple of aspects of the trial that stood out to me. So this is not going to be a super in-depth detail and analysis of what happened from the past week of his trial. There's no shortage of that content that's out there in regards to the case. So y'all can go check that out and draw your own conclusions about what's going on with the case so far. So, all right, we'll get into it real quick. It's week 2 of the Diddy trial. Yes, it's still the trial of the century. Things kicked off this past Monday on May 12th with opening statements from both sides. I believe the opening statements lasted maybe about an hour or two, which is pretty short for a trial of this magnitude. Now, as expected, the feds plan to argue and make the case that while Diddy was this famous and ultra wealthy businessman who entertained us all for decades, he had a criminal side and he uses power, wealth, influence, and businesses as a criminal organization to do all the things that they charged him with. Diddy's defense countered, as expected as well, by admitting that yes, Diddy was definitely not a saint. He was not perfect, but he was a drug user and a physical abuser of women. And even though he was these things, he was definitely not running a criminal organization, nor was he trafficking anyone. Uh, his lawyer, Tenny Garagos, who was one of his 8 lawyers who's defending him in this case, delivered the opening statements for his defense. And to me, I think she did a great job. So moving on to the probably top story of this week in the second week of his trial was Cassie Ventura's Cassie Ventura's testimony and then her subsequent cross-examination by Diddy's defense lawyer. So on the first day of her testimony, she basically talked about all of the abuse, the drug use, the freak offs, how Diddy would try to control her and try to control her life, etc., etc. The feds used day 1 of Cassie being on the stand to paint the picture of Diddy basically being a monster. Then we get into day 2 of Cassie being on the stand, and this is where she starts at the very beginning of everything and breaks down things in chronological order. She fills in a ton of details that wasn't in her bombshell lawsuit, which I won't get into on this video because it's a lot, and honestly we get this small channel banned and deleted. That's how bad it was. That's how disgusting it was. And I'll be honest with you, I felt really bad and really sorry for Cassie that she had to be subjected um, to those horrible things that she went through. And really, for the first time, I started to think to myself that by legal definition, it does look like Cassie was sex traffic. Just going by the legal definition and just going by what she said and how she corroborated some of those claims. So when you factor in the grooming, when you factor in the control, the physical abuse, the drug use, etc., I really can see it. But then the next day came, and this is when she got cross-examined by Diddy's lawyer, Anna Estavo. And let me tell you, she did a hell of a job with the cross-examination. What she basically did was show the overall relationship from Diddy's perspective by having Cassie again start at the very beginning of everything. But then she used Cassie's own words from texts, audio, and in-person corroboration that basically contradicted everything she had just said on the stand the day before. Like I said, Diddy's lawyer did a hell of a job on the cross-examination. And now I even had to rethink that, maybe Cassie wasn't trafficked. So to me, those 2 days of cross-examination from Diddy's defense attorney, to me, it was a huge win so far in the case. And then the last thing that stuck out to me this week was the corroboration also by Cassie when she was on the stand about the 2018 claims of former stripper Jonathan Odie. Now, if you don't know Jonathan Odie, and if you don't remember, Back in 2018, he shot up one of Donald Trump's hotels down in Florida. He ended up getting into a shootout with cops. He got shot in the legs, and then he was subsequently arrested. Now, here's where it got interesting is during his interrogation, he made a ton of bombshell claims and allegations related to politics, the Illuminati, and even his own life. But what got the headlines was when he made these then outlandish claims about being a sex slave for Cassie and Diddy. He said Diddy would pay him to sleep with Cassie while he sat in a corner and pleasured himself. Again, he made these claims in 2018, 5 years before Cassie's bombshell civil lawsuit that alleged the exact same thing. At the time Odie made these claims, they were written off and dismissed because people thought that he was just crazy, he was just talking out of his mind, or that he was just on a ton of drugs and just was out of it and not to be believed. Well, in Cassie's testimony on this past Friday, she basically confirmed everything that Odie had said and that people thought was crazy years ago, back in 2018, when he made the exact same claims. So, again, these are just some quick thoughts from me about the trial so far, and I just wanted to highlight a couple things that stood out to me. Again, this is very early in what's expected to be an 8-week trial. Diddy definitely groomed Cassie at a young age, from what I can see. Diddy is definitely a nasty and disgusting human being. And I do feel for Cassie for what she endured during that time, even though it does seem like she consented to a lot of it. Cassie seemed like, she was just a young, impressionable young woman. She was a people pleaser by her own words when she was on the stand. She seemed like she's the type of woman who would want to do anything to make her man happy, no matter how degrading or how it made her feel, or how much she did not truly want to do it. But like I said earlier in the video, um, I'm just not seeing so far. I'm just not seeing the criminal aspect of what they're charging Diddy with so far. And also, the feds still have not even began to make the point of the RICO connection. So, but again, it's still really early. This is only the second week of the trial. And so we'll just have to see how things turn out and what evidence is presented later on. So, again, there you have it. Just some quick thoughts, quick update of what stood out to me in week 2 of Diddy's trial. As always, let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. I want to know, what's y'all thoughts on the trial so far? Who's winning? So far, I'm scoring this like a boxing match. And right now, at the 5 days of trial, I have Diddy winning 4 days to 1 so far. So again, I want to thank you guys for watching the video, watching the content, supporting the content. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. And I will see you next time with another video on According to the Content. Peace.